Hello, and thanks for being with us on the New Life Show with Dr. Michael Leitman. Hello, Dr. Leitman. Hello, everyone. Hello, Yael Shadarel. Hello. Today, we'd like to talk to Dr. Leitman about self-alienation. Usually, we're familiar with alienation between people, but here there's a phenomenon where a person feels distanced from himself. We'll try to better understand what is this phenomenon. Be with us. Yael, please. Yeah, like Owen said, alienation, self-alienation, is a feeling where a person feels that he's distanced from himself. He doesn't really identify with himself. He's distanced from his true core essence. Turns out that he lives in this kind of external character, persona, that he's not really familiar with, but he's aware of it. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Many times he lives in this external character, whether it's something that he wanted to be or others wanted for him to be, and he's not aware of the gap between who he really is on the inside and that puppet that's living on this planet. This is how all of us are. Exactly, this is what our show is about, so we'll talk about it in a moment. So, if you can please tell us, why are all of us this way, and why are we always alienated from ourselves? I don't see it as anything good or bad, but it's a fact. To begin with, we're born with certain qualities, characteristics, traits, and to the extent to which we can use these inclinations, were our parents to know, then maybe they'd give us a better kind of education than the one we got. But also these inclinations that we've received, we got them, let's put it this way, unwillingly, unconsciously. How could I choose when I was a fetus? Obviously. And later, when my parents, they chose a certain type of education for me, environment and so on, then too, where does it come from and so on. So here I see that, in short, after my years of adolescence, I come out made, as if I was baked in some oven, and either I was made into a bread or a piece of cake or a sweet cake or something, meaning different types, 30 different kinds and types. You can make thousands of different kinds of things out of the same flour. And it's not something that I've determined, but I already have this form now. And who knows how the education and the environment clothe on my given qualities that I was born with. And maybe this was suppressed or that, I don't know. In short, at the age of 20, I feel as if I'm ready for life, but who am I? I do not know. Really, I don't. I'm already alienated from myself, from my own nature, from everything. And this is how I live my life. I live it this way because this is how I was taught, brought up, educated by the tastes and worldviews and all of these things. I'm an artificial person according to all these things. Just like we say that soon we're going to make artificial people, either artificial intelligence or even through genes and biology, out of biological cells and so on. This is actually what I am today. We don't have to search and wait for any kind of development. I, myself, I'm made. I'm baked the way you see me. And the interesting part about it is that I myself am not aware of it, and even if I am, I can't do anything about it. Why does it work this way? It's kind of delusional that a person lives in this world and naturally, in advance, he's built in a way that he's not familiar with who he is. Right? Why is life made this way? In order for that person, once, after thousands of years of development, will acknowledge that and ask, on show number 1075 of the New Life show that he wants a new life. Why would he want it? Because he already has a question. He developed throughout all of our shows, our meetings, and that's it. So the first stage in the development is the awareness that I am not really who I am. Yes. Okay, now there's this saying that man is self-estranged. He is alienated toward his core essence, from his core essence. What's the big gap between who I think I am and who I really am? By common sense, by simple rationale, without involving the wisdom of Kabbalah, what seems reasonable is that a person that's born at birth, he's supposed to get some kind of a document. This is who you are. You're like this and like that, with a list of all of his qualities and traits. You're intended for these and those things, and to what extent, and so on, so that we'll know what to do with this machine. What is it, and what is it not intended for, and how can we use it, and to what extent? These are things that we don't know. But come our parents that also don't know much about their own life, and bend their children, and society bends them. And then, after all of this bending, a person gets a certain bended form that he doesn't exactly know who and what. So what does he do? He is not familiar with who he is and how alienated he is from his natural core quality, how opposite to it he maybe is, or at least distanced. You said that every person who's born is intended for something, or can we direct ourselves in whatever direction we want? After thousands of years of our development, a person who starts understanding that he's not in his place, and that this life does not belong to him, and he doesn't know what to do about it altogether, and what does everyone want from him, then he starts searching, and he sees that he is far away from everything. What am I doing in this world? What do I have here? What does everyone want from me? And what do I have with them, toward them? And then he wants to move away from the entire world, distance himself. And all of our media and technology, it actually supports us being at a distance from each other, for myself to be distanced from everyone else. This is the first thing. Another thing is that also a person wants to forget about himself. He wants to be self-alienated. I don't want to delve in and dig inside myself and get in there and see who am I, what for, that I'd succeed this way or that way, and this way I can't. I'm already despaired. I already see. Subconsciously, I feel that I won't get anything as a result, and that this will only bring me to depression. So instead of taking a little drugs, I'll have to take more drugs. So a person, he rejects himself from all these things. He rejects all these things. And so what, eventually? Eventually, a desire develops in a person to acknowledge, who is my true self? Who am I? Me. And when a person looks at the whole of reality and at the entire universe and everything, he feels that in this, maybe I feel myself, but how do I find my true self? And after a lot of searching through all the fashion and the entire mess that we have on the internet, and by the way, with all these technologies, we're getting to this very quickly. They're helping us to advance quickly and to start asking, who am I? What do I really need? And so on. And then he sees that actually, thanks to our entire development as a mankind, he became distanced from himself. he came to self-alienation. And here, there's a question. How do I find myself? That naturally, in my natural egoistic development, I moved away from myself. And so, who is this I that I grew apart from, that I became distanced from? And I hope that this is something that we'll see in our times. Then a person starts searching for his true inner part. That's called the soul. And then it's already a different kind of search then. That person feels that all in all, this self-alienation he was in, it was something instinctive. Because there was nothing for him to search for. But now that he starts understanding that he has no choice, that he has to attain his soul, his self, then he'll have to go and throw all of these things that are standing in his way in order to discover it, that this is his true point, his core essence, that were he to feel from birth, who is he, what is he, and were he truly able to work with this structure called the soul, then he would really realize himself. But it is impossible because he wasn't ready for it. He didn't have the tools, the vessels for it. But now that he came to this, and he'll open this innermost part in himself called the soul, he'll know what to do with it. Is all of this a new phenomenon? Yes, then he's adhered to this part. He feels that it's the most important part and that everything else is something that he is alienated from. So later he's very devoted to this part, that it's a very joyous revelation because on the one hand, we're living in denial, but once we develop to that place where we discover this, then you're saying that this is what we cleave to. This is the place where, okay, this phenomenon of self-alienation, where we're distanced from ourselves, I heard you say that technology helped us ask, who am I? Did this phenomenon always exist, or did it develop over time? No, we have to develop. Over the thousands of years of our development, throughout our incarnations, we have to develop to such states where we start yearning to discover this inner part of ours that's truly mine. That when I was born, I couldn't be with it at all because I was just a piece of flesh. I couldn't do anything. I was completely under the control of my parents and then society and so on. Now that I'm a grown-up and I've acquired my entire proficiency and all of my strength from society and so on, and I'm pretty much alienated from society because I already see who and what they are, then I can choose that part in me that I want to unite with, and only with it, and with nothing else. A person who's close to himself, what does he feel? A person that does come closer to, through this inner part in him, he discovers the Creator. That he really created him in this part called the soul. How is it different than what we have today where we feel self-alienation? How will things be different? None of us feel their life in this part, their essence in this respect, and the upper force sustaining us in it. What possibilities will open up before me once I discover my true self? To get to know a different kind of life, how it's managed by the upper force and not by the people that are around me that do what seems good to them, and they're always wrong, and I'm always in their hands like a yo-yo or a ping pong ball and so on. So I exchange those that are controlling me right now, my environment, parents, and so on, for a different manager. Yes. Why is he better than these managers? Because he's eternal, complete, perfect. You didn't hear what I said? Eventually, my life, what will I get out of it? What will be different? You're talking about it as a developmental process, meaning we are in a developmental process in order to come to the recognition of evil, our helplessness, and the end of my development. That's how I feel it. And therefore, because I have no choice, and later consciously, and later willingly, I reach a point where I discover the upper force that helped this entire development and brought me to this current state where I acknowledge it. And if a person doesn't believe in the upper force, he doesn't have to believe. Through suffering, through problems, through the emptiness in life, a person will have to search for the upper force and find him. No one forces you to do this, but only man himself, as a result of his development, that it happens. There's a kind of a special twist here. We talked about self-alienation. Then we try to look at the other side of things and see whether there's a state where a person does feel connected to himself, and suddenly you brought in the upper force. So, taking a step back, can you describe a person who's connected to himself? He is under the control of society. He's under the control of human society, under the control of the nation, the world, devoted to everything that's going on in the world, interacting with them. This is how an ordinary modern person is. You can especially see it on teenagers, how much they really want to be accepted. So this is a person who's detached or connected to himself. In this, he feels connected, but actually later on he discovers that he's empty and disconnected. Okay, good. So let's take another step. He's disconnected from what? He discovers that he's disconnected from the essence of life. Okay, a person that'll take another step forward after he understands that only seemingly he was connected, but actually he's disconnected from the meaning of life. What's the next step? What does he have to find in his development? The next insight that he has to look for, the upper force. Why the upper force? He wants to know who's controlling him. Is it society? No. The friends? No. The environment? No. Also nature. He doesn't see who and what that is. What controls me? How can I find my anchor in life? So, a person who's really connected to himself is actually connected to the upper force? Yes, and only. So, myself is the upper force? Yes. Now I'm really confused. Why? You thought that, what does it mean that a person's connected to himself? That's my question. What is he connected to? This is exactly my question. What does it mean to be connected to myself? Really connected. I have to be connected to my innermost point called myself. And in that point of self, I find my connection with the upper force, because he is the one that forms, shapes this point in me. I also can't exactly understand, because we're saying that I want to discover who I am, then in each of us, or each of us at least, has this feeling that in us there's this component that's covered by a layer that covers this true thing sitting inside of you. And now you're saying that this real thing that's sitting inside of you is not really you, but it's something else much greater. Either you are a result of the upbringing, the education that you got from childhood and to this day, and the extent to which society, the environment influences you, the closer, more distant environment. This is who you are. A person is the sum total of everything that's outside of him. When you start discovering how empty everything is, and you don't want to be with them, you don't want to think the way they think and live the way they live, and we feel it more and more in teenagers, that as if it seems to them that they're withdrawing into self-alienation. So you're searching for, okay, what then? There has to be something. And then you start searching until you find that your life has a different source. A different source, not society. But suppose, were you to be born without falling into this society, but that you develop by yourself, completely disconnected from any external influences, how would you develop? Towards what? Toward that source that gave birth to you, who and what it is. Then a person starts feeling that this is what he wants to discover, to be drawn to, in complete alienation from corporeality. So it's some kind of a true, real, developing force that a person's drawn to. Yes, this is the direction. Okay, I want to ask about the process of this awakening. In psychology, at least, it said that a person isn't familiar with himself. He doesn't know himself because there are different protective layers. Is there some kind of danger in this process of awakening? No, because a person will not get an awakening until he's ready to attain himself. Again, please. He will not receive an awakening to attain himself until he'll have the ability to attain himself, the preparation for it. He really has to be despaired of his own forces, despaired of the development of his own situation. He has to be in real despair, and we really see how much the younger generation is in despair, and that they simply exist according to however they're pulled in whatever direction they're pulled, and they're confused on purpose. Otherwise, we'd see the confusion, the despair, the drug abuse. And this is something that we will see. And this actually prepares the desire in a person to advance and to come to know his true self. Yes, nature is preparing us for it soon, with the entire outburst of unemployment and different other things. With this entire eruption, we'll see how much people will start seeing that this is the only correct form of development, that this is our direction, this is what man has to attain his root. Okay, now suppose suppose suddenly I have a desire to attain my root. So, actually, this desire is the desire to connect with my innermost true self. Yes. Good. Suppose Yael has the same desire. The desire to find her root, discover her root, her innermost self. If she'll succeed, and I'll succeed in it. Each of us then, you'll start discovering that you belong to the same root. And there, you're not estranged from each other, but you're connected with one another. This is exactly it, this root that you call the source of life, or the root. So I find my root, Owen's root, and she finds her root, Yael's root. Yeah. Then why did you say that suddenly we discovered that it's one root? It's one for all. So it's mine or hers? This is what I'm trying to understand. No, there's no mine or hers. It's one. Is it different or identical? Mine and his are root. I can't explain this because it's a thing and its opposite. On the one hand, it's one. On the other hand, it's different for each of you. All the rest will attain there, in it. Anyone can go through this process, has to. everyone by incarnating. What do you mean, incarnating? That a person incarnates and incarnates in our life, from body to body to body to body. The soul exists, this root remains, until it develops to a state where a person reaches this special root that includes all of us. How can a person know that they're ripe? It's according to what's revealed to them. So it's something good. Yeah. Is it a frightening process? It's not frightening. It's something that everyone has to go through, and everyone will come to this and enjoy it. It's a part of our evolution, of course. This is the goal of evolution, its purpose. Now, what does a person feel? Suppose I connect to this innermost root of mine. What do I feel? You feel that you came home. And what do I feel at home? Warm, good. Finally, you found a place. You get answers. An answer to everything you ever wanted to know. It fulfills everything about you. What does it do for my unrealized potential? There, everything completely becomes realized because you come there out of all of your questions, your deficiencies, and there you find the fulfillment. This is the purpose of our development, and we can hasten it. And you're sure that every person he has to. Otherwise, he would not exist. Dr. Lightman, thank you very, very much. Thank you, Yael. Thank you for being with us. Till next time, all the best.